Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and thank you to my partners in public service and in our community, and especially from the neighborhood of Charlestown, for being here to share a little bit about why the conversation's ongoing right now about what's going to happen right across this little body of water are so important to the future of this community and to the city of Boston. I am here alongside State Representative Danny Ryan, City Councilor Gabriela Coletta Zapata, State Senator Sal DiDomenico, as well as our city's transportation Deputy Chief of Streets for Transportation of the BTD, Nick Gove, who's also a Charlestown resident, and friends and leaders from the Charlestown neighborhood, Brian Callahan and Marty Kane. I also want to recognize, they're hiding in the back there, but we are here in front of another project that is ongoing that is also so important for the future of this community and of the city. Thank you to Kathy Baker Eclipse of the Boston Parks Department and our project manager for all the Ryan Playground work that's happening, Keisha. This is going to be an incredible asset and space and home for families, but also an important protection. As you see, the piling for the berms are about to go in. And so this whole area is going to be flood proofed so that as the kids are playing, as families are gathering, it's also making sure that we're preparing for the impacts of climate, flooding, weather, and doing that all at once. This area has a tremendous amount of infrastructure need. That has been true long before the proposal for across the river, and that has been true as residents have been participating in many, many years, decades at this point, of planning around the infrastructure that's necessary for Sullivan Square and to finally give safe access to where families need to go. So today I want to speak clearly about Boston's position in the ongoing discussions with the Kraft Group regarding their proposed stadium for the New England Revolution just across the water in Everett, and with a little sliver of Boston land. So Boston actually technically extends across the river, dating back to the days where there used to be a ferry that was run, and that was a primary way that residents of this area could get across. And so in their wisdom, the city of Boston not only had, or Charlestown then, not only had the land on this side, but they reserved a bit of the land on the other side of the ferry because they needed to be able to help manage that transportation even then. And so we have land in the deal as well that needs to be addressed. We know, standing here, you can see it's not too safe of an environment for pedestrians and people trying to get around on foot. That was also highlighted very recently with the traffic delays because of the shutdown and all that happened with the incredibly scary situation around the truck, the garbage truck that was involved here. And so I want to thank all of our first responders for responding quickly. But there have been far too many incidents, fatality, major injuries, crashes along this corridor because it is not safe for pedestrian access. It is meant to be part of an industrial corridor. And if you look all around this area, the residents of Charlestown live just over there. Right? These are our community members, our neighbors, people who are raising their families, who are doing everything and have been highlighting the infrastructure needs for some time, have been part of laying the plans that the city now has for how to make Sullivan Square and Rutherford Ave and all of this area safe. It's going to take resources, but we know what we need to do. On the other side, the residents of Everett don't live right in this immediate area, and I know the senator can attest to this. It's a great site for Everett, and we very much want every single surrounding community in the greater Boston area to be thriving, to develop the sites that have been eyesores for them, to bring jobs, to bring opportunity, because when they thrive, we thrive in the city of Boston as well. But it's important to note, and you can see from right here, that the residential impact is going to be on Charlestown and not on Everett, because their residents live way far away. This has been an industrial area for them for a very long time. I'm told by those who know very well, basically everything from not the blue and white building, but from there over, the stacks, all of this over to the bridge is slated for where the parcel will go. There is no pedestrian access or residential access out that direction. And so the primary way, in a proposal that so far we don't know many of the details, but they've shared is not going to include much parking, the primary way for tens of thousands of people to access that site and a potential stadium is going to be to make that walk back across the bridge and over to the Orange Line in Sullivan Square. That rotary is already complicated enough to navigate on its own. I have pushed a stroller through. You are fearing for your life or your child's life as you make your way. And I haven't even had to push the stroller across this bridge before. So this is just to illustrate and make sure that I hope all of our media partners will get some footage of someone trying to walk across that bridge as it stands now. We need some major investments here. Again, we know what's needed, and we just need the counterparties to come to the table in good faith. Since February, the City of Boston and the Kraft Group have met 6 times to establish a fair mitigation agreement as required by law. Thank you to our state legislators for ensuring that the City of Boston would have a voice at the table. This was established under the Mass Leads Act of 2024. At each meeting, and in written follow-up afterwards, sent by our Boston Planning Department, the City of Boston has asked the Kraft Group for basic information about the stadium's impacts on transportation, noise, jobs, inclusion, our air and water, the daily impacts that would be felt by our residents. We haven't asked for anything out of the ordinary for any significant development, much less a mega development like this one. We've asked for technical review, transportation impact assessments, and clear commitments around jobs, climate resilience, and community benefits. We've asked clear questions. We've shared detailed priorities that come from years of neighborhood engagement and city planning. And we've even sent them the templates, the examples from past projects to help say this is what we're looking for to help make it possible for them to respond. But we've received limited to no answers. To this day, the Kraft Group has provided the city no meaningful technical information. What we've heard has stayed at a conceptual level that is insufficient for any serious negotiation. I want to underscore what our state legislature has made clear. This mitigation agreement isn't a formality. It's not a nice to have. It's not something that you can get around and hope to delay and it'll go away. This is the legal obligation. The Kraft Group must sign a mitigation agreement with Boston before breaking ground on their stadium, before those permits would be valid. That agreement must account for the real impacts this project will have on Charlestown and on our neighborhoods and the city of Boston as a whole. And it must match the scale of what's proposed. Yet the Kraft Group's offer to the city of Boston remains what was proposed before the city was involved in any conversations, in the closed-door conversations that happened only with the city of Everett a year ago. $750,000 in mitigation to the city of Boston. That is a non-starter. It is an unserious proposal. $750,000 is just 1.1% of the $68 million mitigation package that was paid for the Everett Casino project right nearby years ago. $750,000 is just 1.5 months of a billionaire's son's allowance. It is nowhere near the scale of what we need to address the plans that have already been laid out by our residents, with our traffic engineers, with the coordination of the entire region. This Kraft Group offer does not come close to reflecting the strain the stadium would place on our infrastructure, our transportation systems, and on our neighborhoods. Boston residents deserve better. We deserve a responsive proposal that positions this new stadium as a regional point of pride and delivers the benefits that our city and all the Revs fans would expect. We've outlined in detail what the city of Boston expects. 1, a clear plan for transportation that keeps pressure off already congested transit and roads. 2, commitments to noise and climate mitigation, just like we're doing here with our city dollars at Ryan Playground in partnership with our elected officials. 3, a workforce plan that reflects our values, local hiring, supplier diversity, and fair wages. And 4, a neighborhood-level analysis that shows who stands to benefit from the stadium and who will bear its costs. Our administration will not move forward without an agreement that reflects what the numbers tell us, what our neighbors tell us, and what we know the city of Boston deserves, and what would unlock economic opportunity for the entire region and the Commonwealth. We're ready to work together to improve the game day experience for all Revs fans, but we're going to make sure our neighborhoods don't get shortchanged in that process. We are going to do it right. Thank you so much for being part of this process. I see many of our neighborhood leaders, of our partners across the city who focus on delivering economic opportunity, but good jobs that will actually help our communities right here gathered with us today. I want to thank you for all that you do for the city every single day. And now I'd like to welcome up State Representative Danny Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for calling to light where we are in the situation here in what will be a soccer stadium someday, maybe. I want to, before we get going, I want to thank the Mayor for her investment in Charlestown, her investment particularly in this lost corridor at Charlestown. Last summer, we reinforced the underpass on Rutherford Ave. There was chances, there was a plan for a long-term solution to Rutherford Ave, an area that has been ignored for 50 to 60 years. The mayor has been on top of that. The mayor has delivered this playground to us here, the finishing touches to this playground, to make it a world-class playground, was because we had the flexibility of using casino money. That's how we are able to move forward. The mayor had the leadership to look at the project and say, we can either fund it to its full and give the community what they deserve, or we could cut costs because of inflation and everything else you read about the news. And through the mayor's leadership, we're going to have the best Little League field in New England. So thank you, Mayor, for that investment. And that investment, it's not just about a soccer stadium. It's not about the New England Revolution. It's about the vision the mayor has, the vision we as a community have for this end of our neighborhood, a forgotten end of the town. You can look behind us. This is what New England thought of our neighborhood and thought of this end of Everett for the last 100 years. We're just going to dump our stuff. The last investment made here was a water and sewer facility to literally dump the community stuff over here in our neighborhood. This is a chance to revitalize this area. You only have this chance once every 100 years or so, and we need the New England Revolution to be a part of that revitalization. The original bill that gave them the opportunity to make this a viable use, a soccer stadium, a viable use, it was an economic development bond bill. And the importance to that is what we're trying to do here is revive the economy in this area, rethink the industry that's here. But there was also, through Senator Sal Domenico and my work with the senator, we got $8 million bonded to clean up this river, to clean up what Monsanto left behind when they closed their doors. It went from the dirtiest river in New England to one that now you can see nesting osprey on that stanchion right there. You got common terns running back and forth because there are now fish in this water. The New England Revolution has an opportunity to be part of that vision. They need to step up and help us look at the community we want for the next 100 years. Thank you.
I'm going to read off the list so I don't have to keep running up here, and we'll minimize the talking. So next up will be State Senator Sal Domenico, followed by Councilor Coletta Zapata, then Nick Gove, Brian Callahan, and Marty Kane.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. And I want to echo what Representative Ryan just said as well by thanking the mayor for her investments in this neighborhood and this corridor. And that's why when I look and see what's happening here and what the opportunities for this community and for the city of Everett as well, and I'll put it all out there. Obviously, I'm a state senator for Everett and Charlestown. I have two babies in this game. And I love them both equally. And I also have the responsibility of representing both communities equally. And I have been out in front on this proposal, and I have been advocating for this development because I want something better than what we have behind us. And what we have behind us, as Representative Ryan said, has been 100 years of closed-off waterfront to our residents, polluting our water, our air, our land, and just a little bit this way here on the right side, it's a part of Everett called the Village. And just down this street here is another part of Everett called the Line. There are two communities very close to this site. And I know that, and they know that because they have borne the brunt of heavy industry in their neighborhood and the illnesses and diseases that have come with that. There are cancer clusters in the city of Everett, and I'm sure in Charlestown too. Just beyond this bridge on the left side, just beyond this bridge on the right side, people have gotten sick for decades. Families have had to deal with heartache because of the heavy industry and unregulated junk, quite frankly, that has been spewing in our neighborhood for so long. Now, a new day has come. A new day has come for Charlestown and for Everett. That we are no longer going to have on our both gateways into our communities what you see behind us with smokestacks who've done so much damage to our communities. And it's a new day because we have an opportunity with the revolution to now right a lot of the wrongs that have happened for so long and create opportunities for economic development, transit options that we have never even dreamed about in the past. They're bringing funding and the urgency to this area. We all know we need a commuter rail stop. We all know we need a bridge over to Assembly Row. We all know we need a civil line extension down this road. All things that have been talked about for so long that are going to come to fruition because of this project. So we have Sullivan Station over here. We're going to have Assembly Row over there. We're going to have the civil line extension coming down this street. And a commuter rail stop for the first time in over 60 years. There used to be a stop here before. They took it away. Again, another insult to this community and Charlestown community because they use a commuter rail stop as well. All of those things are going to come to bear. Better options for Charlestown and for Everett to alleviate traffic and create better transit options for our people going to work every single day and the connectivity between the two communities. Now, all that being said, we also need good partners to make this happen. And we also know that we have a developer who has to be a partner in all these good things that are going to come to fruition. I know there's a study being done right now by the Kraft Group to talk about mitigation for transportation, for traffic mitigation, for pedestrian access. I want to see what that looks like. I'm very interested to see what the result of that looks like. And also the result of that study and the state's process of MEPA, Chapter 91, all the things that we put in legislation that have to be followed after this process began with mediation, and hopefully it doesn't go to arbitration, but we will see how that all works out. But we need partners like the Revolution to make all those things that I just mentioned happen. So I am hopeful. I know the mayor is ready to negotiate, and she has been ready to negotiate. I am hearing the Revolution are ready to negotiate. Let's negotiate. Let's get something done for the betterment of both communities to make sure that the next generation of children in both communities don't have to look at these smokestacks going over the bridge and coming over the bridge both ways. We deserve better in Charlestown. We deserve better in Everett. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. Before I start, I want to be sure to express gratitude to our incredible mayor, Mayor Michelle Wu, who is exemplifying leadership here and is fighting on behalf of not just Charlestown, but Bostonians every single day. I want to say thank you to my state colleagues, Senator DiDomenico and Charlestown's very own Rep. Ryan. They are incredible partners at the State House and really putting at the forefront Charlestown's needs and desires. I'm here to stand with them and here to stand with incredible community leaders and residents in calling for the Kraft Group to provide, to deliver this proud 1 square mile what it deserves, which is full transparency, serious mitigation, and transformative investment that meets the scale of this project and its impact. It's been mentioned before, but Charlestown has seen this playbook. And back when the casino was proposed across the Mystic, $68 million worth of mitigation was secured. So far, the Kraft Group has offered $750,000, which is not even 2% of the $68 million. To me, that's not a partnership. Quite frankly, it's an insult. Let's be honest about the stakes here. This stadium could bring in thousands of fans to our neighborhood every single week. It could strain our infrastructure, challenge public safety, bring noise that neighbors haven't asked for, impact air and water quality, and intensify congestion in an area that is already overwhelmed. Charlestown is a peninsula. There are 3 ways in and 3 ways out. We've all sat in traffic in Sullivan Square and over the North Washington Street Bridge when a nearby venue has a concert or a game. The reality is that without adequate planning and infrastructure improvements, it will only get worse. And so our message is simple. We are not the parking lot. We are not the cut through. We are not an afterthought. We are a proud community here in Charlestown. If the stadium is built, it must come with real promises, not vague ones. We're talking about permanent transportation and infrastructure upgrades, noise mitigation, safe access and pathways for pedestrians, environmental and climate resilience infrastructure, and investment in Charlestown's youth and families, not crumbs. So this is a moment, this is an opportunity, it is a partnership to deliver the type of future that our residents have fought for and that they deserve. Charlestown is a historic community. We have over 250 years of a legacy of fighting for what's right from Bunker Hill to today. And we will continue to be ready. We will continue to fight. We will continue to organize. And I'll be right here in deep partnership with all of you, in deep partnership with the mayor, my colleagues, and residents, holding the line, asking hard questions, and demanding that if this project moves forward, Charlestown is respected, included, and protected. Thanks, everyone.
Morning, my name is Nick Gove, Deputy Chief for Transportation, also serving as BTD Commissioner. So the city has significant concerns about traffic impacts the proposed stadium will have on Charlestown. The average daily traffic count for Rutherford Ave is over 60,000 vehicles a day. Route 99, which includes the Alfred Street Bridge, is over 43,000 vehicles a day. The MBTA Rapid Transit facility at Sullivan Square serves the Orange Line in over 10 regional bus connections. Infrastructure investments are necessary to mitigate and plan for the stadium project, including off-site parking mitigation and shuttles, supplemental transit options, and improved walking access from existing transit hubs. Specifically, we think reasonable investments that ensure that the stadium is accessible to Sullivan Square, and that these improvements should include pedestrian experience enhancements, traffic calming measures in the neighborhood, as well as protection for parking as well. We think these are minimum responsibilities of the proponent to mitigate the impact of game day traffic volumes. In 2024, last year, the city completed the Rutherford Ave and Mishawam Bridge construction work. This project was an over $6 million investment from the city. Long term, the Rutherford Ave and Sullivan Square redesign project, which has been in the works for decades, will completely transform this corridor into a functional, multimodal corridor with improved access for both Boston, Somerville, Everett, Cambridge residents. Over the next decade, the city, with support from our state and federal partners, plans to invest over $200 million into this corridor. Short term, the stadium proponent should commit their fair share. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Brian Callahan, one of Charlestown's community leaders.
Good morning. My name is Brian Callahan. I'm a resident of Charlestown and a member of the Sullivan Square Residents Association. First, I want to thank Mayor Wu for standing up for the residents of Charlestown on this most important public safety issue. She's putting people before profit, and that is what we're here for today, the residents of Charlestown. When I arrived this morning, I wondered how in the world is anyone going to hear us speak today with the traffic driving by on a quiet Monday morning. I think you've all experienced the tractor trailers that are driving through our residential streets today. Whoever thought of the idea of a speaker, thank you very much. I want you to think about a couple of things. For me, all roads lead through Sullivan Square. 1/3 of the city's traffic drives through the community on the way to work, and 1/3 of the city's traffic drives out of the community at the end of the day, which really begins now at 2 in the afternoon. So we are blocked in. Public safety is paramount for the folks who live and work in Charlestown. There's nothing more important than that at all. When you think about it, everything over there drives through here. Route 93 coming north goes into Sullivan Square with a ramp. Route 93 heading south with a ramp drops into Sullivan Square. All the traffic driving over to Cambridge drives down Cambridge Street over to North Point. Development has been explosive in the area. The infrastructure hasn't changed one bit in over 60 years. Now is the time. Now is the time to protect the residents of Charlestown and Everett and the folks who commute here every day. Our children from Charlestown walk through Sullivan Square to play baseball and softball here and have for years. And this is what they have to walk through, to danger. Folks who walk from the Orange Line in Sullivan Square to work at Kraft Center have to come across Sullivan Square. It's a danger. So please, I ask the development team to work very closely with the city and the mayor to address the public safety issues that have been facing our community for years. If not now, the question is when. We've waited way too long. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Marty Kane. I'd like to thank the mayor for being the only thing that stands in the way of development in the residents. And I grew up here in Charlestown, and it's come a long way. And right now, it's one of the nicest cities. It's got the most kids per capita and some of the best public schools in the city. It's a really nice place. And like everyone here has said just about anything I could possibly say, but nothing's going to feel that stadium and this development like Charlestown is. The traffic already at Sullivan Square, it's just a hub. It's not a Charlestown thing. It's not a Boston thing. It's a state thing. It's actually a New England thing, because you can go through Sullivan Square any time of day and see plates from Rhode Island and New Hampshire trying to cut through side streets to try to get to the highway. And something needs to be done there. It's safety and just a way of life. And and this is the time to do something to mitigate that. The sound that will come across from a stadium across the street, which when I did like some research, it looks like around 80 shows a year. It's not just going to be a soccer stadium. It's going to be all kinds of venues and music and cheering. And Charlestown is a hill. And half of that hill is going to just absorb the sound from that stadium. And the proposed money that they've proposed to give it wouldn't buy a set of streetlights. It wouldn't get you a streetlight intersection. So it's absolutely ridiculous and not in good faith. And like I said, I mean, it's speaking for everyone, for Charlestown residents and Bostonians and Massachusetts and everyone. That's something needs to be done with Sullivan Square. It has to happen, and that should happen before anything is done across the river. Before the first ticket sold over there, this should be done. This should be addressed and complete, and a plan should be shown to us. When the state senator, he can't see the plan. How am I supposed to? With that being said, I'll turn it over to whoever's next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions on topic about this, and I'll take off topic to the side after. Yeah. So with every major development in the city of Boston, when we talk about community benefits and mitigation, it's important to start with knowing exactly what the impacts will be. And because we have not received any kind of baseline specific technical information over the months and months that we've been asking for it, we're still not even at the point where we can give a real direct answer to that, because one has to flow from the other. The best approximation that we have right now is a site that was similarly for a large entertainment use, similarly right adjacent to this parcel in terms of the casino, and that was a $68 million package.
How do you think this is all complicated by your run against Josh Kraft, and do you think there will be a deal by November?
So I want to be clear, we are here in an official capacity to talk about the business before the city. It is not the business of the city that the counterparties are actually running a political campaign at the same time, right? We do know that Josh is a pre-approved owner in waiting of the team that has been established in legal documents, and it is a separate set of questions that I believe he should have to answer about how he feels about the situation and what the right thing to do is. We know what the right thing to do is for the city of Boston. We are here, not just physically here, but here in terms of the negotiation process, only because the state legislature stepped in. The Krafts had to be dragged kicking and screaming to include the city of Boston in these conversations. And it took an act of the legislature, an extraordinary bit of legislation that had to be passed to require that there would be a mitigation proposal, as has been established from every other major project in the city of Boston, and even the projects that are across the river but impact the city of Boston, such as the casino. So we have been and are going to continue to take this process very seriously. We know this represents, as you've heard, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do this right, to bring benefits to our city, to welcome a franchise that is so beloved across Boston, closer to where their fans will be able to enjoy those games, to make sure that those benefits go directly into our communities. But we can't be the only party taking this seriously when there are two parties that are needed to come to an agreement.
The mayor of Everett is a strong supporter of the soccer stadium. Have you talked with him at all? And are you a supporter of the soccer stadium if the traffic is done right?
I've had conversations with Mayor DiMaria. I had asked to go out and take a walk with him. When was that? February. Months and months ago. We had set up a time. He canceled it. I still want to make sure we're going through the process. And I understand, right? Every mayor's job, if you're doing your job right, is to fight for your community, to fight for your residents, and look at what they have the opportunity to change and to fix and to finally deliver. But it can't be at the expense of Boston residents, who are going to feel the impact much more than Everett, just given the way that the parcel is laid out and given the way that the city is laid out. This is going to be the primary way for most people who are going to that site to leave that site, to get there and then to go home. And we need to make sure that it is fixed up. I welcome any further conversations, and in terms of my own position, I love soccer, both my boys play soccer. They're obsessed with it. We have been working to bring more professional teams into the city through our administration as well, and there are so many benefits for the entire region economically, in terms of mentorship for young athletes and all of that. But again, it cannot be one or the other, that you get some benefits dangled in terms of new jobs, but only if you're willing to accept a lowball offer that is disrespectful or insulting versus trying to come to an actual agreement like every other major developer has had to do.
Is there any concern that if the negotiations
The city of Boston is going to, I mean, the stadium is elsewhere already. The stadium is there. They are already playing. They are selling tickets. I've been to their games before out at Gillette for the New England Revolution games, and my kids have been there with me. It is a trek. We don't like going out there with all the traffic, the parking, the this and that and the other. It would be amazing to be able to hop on the Orange Line and then have a safely redone intersection here that fits all the needs that our Charlestown residents have been asking for to be able to access that game. That is a set of business decisions that they are making in terms of how to approach this negotiation. It has now gotten to the point where we've reached the deadline that the state legislature established that we have to start mediation now. And I'm very thankful to Tom Glynn, who is widely trusted and respected individual and leader in our community, and Rebecca Kaiser, who will both be helping to assist and ensure that this moves forward. I'm going to keep reiterating, though, we are ready to talk any kind of progress and numbers and next steps, but we need baseline information. It is not acceptable to hide behind large concepts and to avoid the kind of transparency that every other developer that does business in the city of Boston or with the city of Boston has to give. Does anyone else want to comment on that question in particular? What happens?
So in the legislation, the state legislation, there is a timeline, and it can only be a soccer stadium. So if this deal doesn't work out, we go back to the drawing board, and we find some other entity that wants to be part of our future. Oh, there is binding arbitration if mediation does not work, right?
Able to say something in Spanish about this?
Sure. Estamos aquí con los residentes de Charlestown para asegurar a nuestra comunidad que la negociación sobre el estadio propuesta para el estadio de fútbol con la familia Kraft va a proveer los beneficios a nuestra comunidad. Es una conversación muy seria y necesitamos más participación de parte de este grupo para la contabilidad a nuestros residentes, para implementar los cambios necesitos para invertir en la infraestructura de transporte público, para la seguridad de los residentes que están caminando en esa área, inversiones en nuestra resiliencia climática y en los trabajos que puede ser parte de esta situación. Hay muchos meses la ciudad estaba tratando de crear una conversación en verdad. Entonces necesitamos más acción. Estamos en el punto de mediación ahora y es una inversión que necesita acompañar el escalo de la propuesta. Okay, was there anything else?
I just wanted to reiterate the details of the legislation and how it impacts this project. The legislature was very deliberate to make sure that the parties that will be impacted would have a seat at the table. So the timeline for all of this was at the end of April, early May, if there wasn't an agreement in place between the two parties, the two cities and the Kraft Group, that would go to mediation. And as the mayor said, Tom Glynn and Rebecca Kaiser have now been appointed as the mediators to try to come to a resolution between all parties. If that does not work, at the end of the year, the end of this calendar year, then it goes to binding arbitration. And at that point, there'll be an arbiter brought in and the decision made will be binding. If the soccer stadium did not happen at this site, and if something did break down and binding arbitration, whatever, but binding arbitration is the final step, it was clear in legislation that a DPA would go back into existence if there was not a soccer stadium on this site. So basically you would have heavy industry of some sort on this site. It might not be the smokestacks, it might not be that building, but there would be a reuse of that site in some sort of way for industrial use, which I don't think any community wants on either side of the river. So, and the reason why we also put the agreement process in place was, I know there was talk about a community benefits agreement in the past. The environmental groups came together to try to get something in writing prior to legislation being passed. And that agreement, which had many things environmentally appropriate, also included a couple other things that other groups on the environmental side wanted, like housing trust fund, like a community center, which kind of makes it look like it's more of a community-based agreement as opposed to an environmental agreement. But that was the nexus and that was the genesis of that agreement in place, was the environmental folks. I wish, and I'll say this publicly and I've said it many times, I wish, and I still hope that they will, those same environmental groups that held our feet to the fire prior to legislation being passed would be honest about their involvement in that agreement and honest about how much they pushed to get that agreement put in place. And I wish they had engaged the city of Boston as well, because there are two sides to what you see here today. If they had gone to the other side of the river and also engaged Boston, as they did Everett, then we would have some sort of foundation in place to build on for both communities. So I did want to just say that one piece. And they have time. I'm looking at all of you on the camera, environmental groups, you have time to come forward and do the right thing on that as well. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, I just want to make a note here. I thank all of my colleagues for their leadership. I thank the senator for fighting for both of his communities and the place where he came from, and we'll never forget that he's from. I will make an addendum on what was just said about the climate groups, though. I agree that conversations should be open, and frankly that the city of Boston should have been permitted to be at the table a long time ago. It certainly wasn't for lack of trying, but it is not the burden and obligation of our community organizations, whether they're focused on climate, transportation, resident associations. It is not the responsibility and the onus on volunteers who are doing this work to come to the table and ensure that there's a fair offer. The responsibility is on those who stand to profit to the tune of millions of dollars to come forward and be real about what this conversation should involve. So I just wanted to add a both and to what has been said, and we're here. We wanted to make sure that the public got some information about what was happening and where the position of the city is before we begin that mediation. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.